Hello and welcome to Vox Markets. I am John Human and I'm joined today by Intelligent Ultrasound Chief Executive Stuart Gall. How are you doing, Stuart?
I'm good, John. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, it's been an incredibly eventful 2022 for Intelligent Ultrasound, and we're here today to sort of talk through some of the highlights. I guess the biggest highlight has been the continuing expansion of your relationship with GE Healthcare. Tell us what you're doing with them and what's happened this year and the potential scale of that opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've had a great year, I've got to say, and I think key to that has been progressing our relationship, our partnership with GE, and enabling us to sort of continue the growth of our AI-related revenue streams in 2023 and beyond. And I think that's the key thing, is about how we move from just being a company that talks about the future to one that actually delivers revenue in this key area. So for us, the big event was in the summer, in July, where our AI software was integrated into GE's new Voluson Expert 22 obstetrics ultrasound machine. It's a fantastic ultrasound machine. We were in both in London, a big event, but then also in Chicago, where seeing it live, seeing the doctors all around it who absolutely love it. And of course, our software is is basically the world's first fully integrated AI tool that recognizes the 21 views that you take when you're doing a mid-trimester scan. That's for non-technical terms, that's when if you're a mother having a baby around about 20 weeks, you're having a scan to check that all the anatomy is growing correctly. So you're looking for just anything that might be going wrong. And our software is basically helping the sonographer with that scan. It's giving them instant feedback that the image they've taken meets the protocol. This is a generally well-recognized protocol all around the world. So it helps them speed up their scanning. It standardizes scanning for the hospital. And I think really importantly, especially at the moment, it reduces the stress on the operator. And that is being really well received by the market. I think mainly because it's augmenting the sonographer's skills. It's not replacing them. So we're pretty excited about sort of the long-term potential of this market, because GE is the largest medical imaging company in the world, and they dominate the obstetrics market. So it's great to be a partner with them in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're across the range now. So as far as I understand it, you talk through what machines you're in and what the uptake has been like, because this is novel technology, as you say. Perhaps that you
Yeah,
can understand if the market will take a little bit of time to get used to it.
I think that's fair. I think if you look at GE's Voluson range, let's say women's imaging machines, it's the name they operate under. So they have a sort of three products in the range. There are a few more than that, but basically, if you think of it as three main products, they've got the Swift, which they launched, I think it's about 18 months ago. That's at the sort of lower to mid end of the marketplace. In the middle, sort of like, I think it's called mid to premium end, they've got a product called the Signature, but at the top end, the premium product is called the Expert, and that just launched with the Expert 22. So we're on the Swift, and now we're on the Expert 22, but it's the Expert 22 is the one that we really think is going to drive sales. And obviously, we're hoping to be on the full range as we evolve our partnership with GE. So we fully expect that to happen as we hopefully then evolve the product range that we have with them.
So the other big news beyond GE Healthcare was the FDA approval of ScanNav Anatomy Peripheral Nerve block, which shows that your technology is really applicable to multiple areas. In this case, anesthesiology ultrasound. So, what's the potential for that product?
Yeah, so I think it's important when you think about what we're doing in AI. We've got one route to market, which is to work with the vendors, the ultrasound vendors themselves, and give them software that can be integrated into new machines. But there's also the route to the existing machines that are already in market, what might be called the retrofit market, where you can go to the existing machines that are already out there and plug a piece of technology into them. So this was the sort of our second route to market that we've been following after the last few years. And ScanNav Anatomy essentially is our second piece of AI software that we have taken now through regulatory approval in both CE marking for the EU and UK, but really importantly, because the biggest market for anesthesiology from our perspective is going to be America, and that we got FDA approval for de novo clearance, basically, of our device, and that came through in April. So that's a big step for us. And obviously, these things all take time. You're teaching people how to do new things. This is aimed at the local anesthesia market. And we're looking at doing what's called peripheral nerve blocks. So peripheral nerve blocks are where you're going to have an ultrasound guided injection, so you can have a local anesthetic operation rather than having a general anesthetic. Now, that's a win-win for the hospital because it saves them money. It's a benefit for the patient because they don't have to do an overnight stay, and it's safer. And so when we looked at the market, we realized that over 80% of all the blocks that were being done by sort of 10-15% of anaesthetists. And the reason the majority of the anaesthetists weren't doing these blocks was because they were competent but not confident in the ultrasound element. And they said, give us a tool that will make us confident. So that's what we've basically done. We've brought out this tool, you plug it in, and it highlights all the structures live as you're scanning with the ultrasound. So you can see exactly where the nerve is, you can see where the artery is, you can see the muscle, etc. So it's a tool to help the anaesthetist be more confident with the ultrasound. Clearly, this is now all about building awareness, doing the peer review papers, spreading the word about the product. The fact that we can now go and do that with a regulated approved product in America is the big next step for us. And so, I think this is a, quite an exciting time for us because we can now get into America. We've got a sales team already out there. We sell ourselves in America. We've got an operation based out of Alpharetta, and it's now about getting out to the market, telling everyone about product. And again, as we've sort of said, this move to being all about revenue, being commercial rather than just being, hey, we've got some nice stuff coming in the future.
You mentioned your sales team there in the US, and that's for me was something that was a fascinating thing to observe this year, that you've set up a direct selling capability, and it was enjoying early success. Can you talk us through what you're doing there and how you're sort of going to keep pushing forward with that direct selling approach?
I mean, I think obviously for companies of our size, it's always a balance between how much you can invest in that sort of preloading of your sales function and how much you want to build it as the sales start coming in. So we've had a sort of bit of a combination of the two, a bit of a hybrid approach. We've clearly invested in saying, we want to build a team in America. America's obviously it's a big place. So you can't really do it with one or two. At the moment, we've got 5 salespeople supported by 4 or 5 support team. And it's really about how quickly we can expand that. How quickly do the leads start developing? How much do we then start loading up the peripheral nerve block side of this to start selling the AI side? We think we've got the balance about right. We hope we have, but now it's about obviously, again, building the revenues that justify why we've got this, expensive resource in America that we've got to start capitalizing on.
You mentioned raising awareness of what you're doing and the products that you have, and you recently reached an agreement with the World Federation for Ultrasound in Medicine and Biology. Presumably, this is really going to help you do exactly that, get people familiar with what you're doing.
Well, I think so. It's interesting. Obviously, we if I'm honest, we've done this actually because we think it's the right thing to do. They're a really, they're a great organization. We've known Jacques Abramovich, who's going to be their president. He's the president-elect, be their president next year. We've known him for many years. He's based in Chicago at the moment. And from my perspective, being able to basically help them in their mission, which is ultimately about trying to educate and train people in ultrasound in underserved regions of the world. So these are places where traditionally you can't get the sort of access to the training tools that we've got. And having a partnership where we're going to basically donate some of our systems to them. They've got about 15 training centers around the world, and helping them with their training and enabling them to basically use these very sophisticated simulators to teach all around the world is I think is an important thing actually that companies like us should be trying to balance. Obviously we've still got a company that makes money, we've still got to trade. Clearly it's great that lots of key opinion leaders around the world see us supporting operations like WFM, but also I think it's a really positive, good thing to do. And the company's really behind supporting this sort of mission.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a great thing to do. You mentioned training there. Obviously that's what this is about. And your strategy is classroom to clinic. So we talked about GE and actually machines out there in use, but by medical practitioners. Talk us through the classroom side of things and how that's gone this year. I think there was a product launch here in September, Needletrainer 2, as part of that.
Yeah, that's right. So Needletrainer is actually we would call that a hybrid product because it actually has got AI built into it. But Needletrainer, basically, this was it launched with the GE Vscan Air. So this is again, part of our partnership with GE, we actually have embedded an ultrasound handheld device from GE into this training tool. It's a great new product because basically it simulates needling, but actually enables you to practice live on a real volunteer. So, you know, that's a whole new way of teaching. Normally you'd use maybe a mannequin, some form of simulated mannequin. You can't obviously inject into a real person. And, you know, there was a big event in Cardiff only last week, which was Bemis. It was a big event being held in Cardiff. We had 40 doctors and sonographers from all across the country who were in our demonstration room, all using Needletrainer. And feedback was tremendous. So we've got really high hopes for this next year.
No, it's really quite interesting. You mentioned there an event that you were presenting at there, and you know, and obviously the pandemic has caused you some problems, not least in terms of getting out to events to promote yourselves and getting into hospitals to actually deliver this stuff and sell directly. So there's presumably a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think if you look at we did 2020 was the year that we sort of properly got affected. I mean, I think everyone was suddenly in, whoa, everything changes. Our operation changed. You couldn't get into hospitals. And then gradually, obviously, we all, in effect, evolved how we were going to try and deal with this. In certain areas, we're all through it in that respect. I think, you know, you can still see there's an impact in China, you know, which may be slightly about to change, but clearly that was sort of completely closed down. And that's a big market for us. You can see how places like for us, Germany were difficult first half, but came back strongly in the second half. It's still varying around the world, but we really only were impacted by 1 year. We actually then grew ourselves in 2021, and we're about to keep that growth going in 2022. And obviously, clearly, we're hoping going to carry that on in 2023. I still would say that, you know, China's not fully open. You've got the whole terrible issue in Ukraine, appalling situation there. You've got potentially this global recession everyone's panicking and worrying about. So I don't think we're through the, you know, we're out of troubled waters yet for all companies, to be honest. But, you know, we're trying to continue to evolve. We've changed the way we work. We have a hybrid working policy. We're very flexible. All that's actually probably been benefit. We've got a very happy team at the moment because of the way things have changed. And it's just about making sure that whatever punches get thrown with them, you can just, you know, flow with it and make sure you avoid the big punches and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you know, one of the things, you know, we are seeing, particularly here in the UK, but obviously in the US as well, you know, there is enormous pressure on healthcare systems. The pandemic really highlighted that. Do you see your technology as actually helpful to alleviating some of that pressure? Does AI in the way that you're implementing it really help practitioners and actually take some of the pressure off the system?
So, and I'm clearly going to say yes to that, but I actually genuinely believe that what we're doing in our sort of AI software at the moment is really beneficial to the healthcare market. So when you look at ultrasound scanning, when you look at any form of scanning at the moment, there is a massive sort of issue on burnout. Okay, I think there was a survey I read only 2-3 weeks ago, which basically said in America, in the UK, over half of all doctors scanning in radiology or in sonography were basically suffering from, you know, symptoms of burnout, massive pressure, hospital systems overloaded. You're being asked to do more, but actually you're not being given any more resource to do it. And what I think is really, I've always said from day one about our software is that not only does it help you in effect scan faster, but it does it in a way that's actually less stressful. So that's a sort of, you know, a bit of a holy grail in a way, that you can help people be able to do more, but you can reduce the stress of doing it. So it actually almost feels like they're doing less. And that's what we're trying to aim to do, is to take the strain away, give them tools that support them. Our tools are all about sort of augmenting what you do. They're not about replacing, they're about augmenting, making it easier, making it more helpful. And so that's, you know, yes, I think the answer is yes. I think our tools can help do that. And I think we're entering in a new area where that's going to sort of, you know, start to be more evident as the product actually get into the marketplace and more people can use them.
And presumably as well, there is a potentially a long roadmap of applications for what you're doing in ultrasound. So obviously you're in women's health and anaesthesiology. Presumably there's a lot more space to go into.
Yes, and again, a company of our size is always trying to balance how much it's putting onto stuff for the future versus evolve the evolution of products that are already in the marketplace, and we're trying to get that balance right, investing in basically the products that exist, and having additional iterations of those products so you can sell more of the product that you brought to market, but also having sitting behind that the pipeline of new development that can come through. And there's a lot of areas that we are looking back at. We've always talked about liver, for example, a long-term goal. And I think it's about getting the short term, the medium term, and the long term right. There's many areas that we're looking at. There's lots of things we're doing, but I do genuinely think we're well placed to be a player in this pretty exciting market. It's forecast to be a 1.3 billion market by 2028, and we aim to be a player in that.
And you strengthen the balance sheet this year, so that will presumably help with your sort of R&D ambitions. What are the investment priorities for the year ahead?
Yeah, so I'd say clearly the focus. So as you just said, we raised 5.2 million in a pretty tough market. So I think that was a real plus for the company. Actually, just showed how supportive our shareholders have been, and I would, if any of them are listening, I'd say thank you for being so supportive, been fantastic. But that money basically is about making us a profitable business. There are times when you've got to keep investing because your goal is to be somewhere in 10, 20 years. But actually, we definitely are saying this money is to basically working capital. So obviously, we're clearly carrying on investing in our R&D of existing products and the pipeline that's coming. But the absolute focus of the business now is being profitable by 2024. That's what we've said. That's why we raised the money, to make sure that we could do that. This year has been about getting to 10 million. Next year, that next step is about getting to 12.5 million and keeping those steps going. We have a vision that we made public that we wanted to be. We called it our 25 by 25 vision, and we wanted to be a 25 million turnover by 2025. Reality, that's 3 years away. We're at 10 now. I think it's a realistic target. It's where we want to be. And what we raised the money for was to make us achieve that and get there.
So what should investors be looking out for on the news flow front in the year ahead? We know what the financial targets are, and there's obviously there's a lot of good products out there that we're obviously looking for updates on. But what's coming down the track?
Yeah, so I think I would say again, I'd sort of repeat that actually this is all about delivering the 25 by 25 plan. And so the next step on that is growing AI sales. We've got to reach 12.5 million in 2023. That's the next step on the pathway. You've just got to always say, right, where am I going next? So 12.5 million, it's about revenue. It's about, in effect, product launches that are going to support that revenue growth, obviously with our key partners, and making those sales achievements throughout the year. And I think that's where our focus is clearly for the next year, is to keep on the target of 12.5. We actually have a focus out there. We've got to get to 17 by 2024. So it's all about basically the news flow that's going to support that, which is mainly going to be on the commercial side. But I think, as I said, we think we're in the right space at the right time, and this is definitely an exciting market.
Indeed, it is. And you've been good at hitting your milestones so far. So
let's keep it that way.
Indeed, congratulations on what has been, as I say, a very, very eventful year of massive progress for Intelligent Ultrasound. Thank you, Stuart.
Thanks, John.